Hello to everyone, welcome back to the Python course. In this video, we're just looking into one of the control flow structures in programming, which is for loop and while loop. And as the first understanding, I've just brought you guys for loop flowchart and while loop flowchart. So on the left side, we have for loop flowchart. As a program, I mean the loop of the for loop starts. It has an asking that it is the last item or not. If it's the last item, it's just gonna end. I mean the loop is gonna be ended. The thing that it just circulates around itself is just gonna be ended. And if it is not the last item, it's just gonna go through a statement, the structure, or the controlling of the flow that we just defined, and it is just gonna try the next number. And if the next number it is not the last item, it's just gonna try it again. And if the next item it is the last item, it's just gonna end the program. So there is a loop created here, and this loop is gonna be continued. That's our list or our numbers or our any objects and items are just gonna be finished. I mean, it is just gonna be the last item. And on the right side of the page, we have while loop. So it starts the program, it goes through the condition. If the condition is true, it goes through a statement. And if the condition is false, it's just gonna end the program. So there is a big difference here that the while loop is just gonna be based on the true or false, but the for loop is just gonna be based on the available last item. So this is based on the availability to end, and this is based on the condition of true or false to be end. So in the while loop, if the condition is true, it's just gonna go through a statement, and it's just gonna try it another time. And if another time it is true, it's just gonna continue like this. This is a loop created here, and if the condition is false, it's just gonna end the program. And in total format and structure, this is the body of the for loop. As you guys can see, there is a body of codes for the for loop. And here we could have break statement in for. And this is how actually a for loop looks. So we're just gonna define some items. We're gonna use for keyword in Python. We're just gonna use 2 dots. And here it is our statement. This is the condition that we're just defining. This is the break statement that it could be used in the body of a for loop. This is the output for this example that we just saw. Let's go through the code to seek into more stuff. Let's see what is for loop used for. A for loop is used for iterate over a sequence. I mean, it could be a list, a tuple, a dictionary, a set, or a string. So, including these items, I mean a list, tuple, dictionary, set, and a string, including any type of items that it could be in the list that we have just defined, we're just gonna iterate over them with the condition that we're just gonna go through. So, as I told you, here right now, I'm just gonna use a list format, and I'm just gonna define something called numbers. And in my list, I'm just gonna put 1 to 5 numbers. And here I'm just gonna define the body of my for loop. So a for loop, it starts with a for keyword. And next, we're just gonna define a variable. This variable, for the better code reading and clean code, it is much better to be logical and related to your code. For example, I've just defined it here num because it's a shorten of number. This is a variable that you're just going to define. It doesn't matter. It could be something called like x. This it doesn't really matter. I mean, when the continue of the for loop, the number is available in. So the variable that I'm just going to define, I'm going to use in keyword. So this it means the availability of number in the numbers. What is numbers? Numbers is the list that I've just defined. So what I say here is I say if the number is available in my numbers, do this. Do what? Do print number is to related to my number that I've just defined, and if the num, I mean the variable, is just gonna pass the condition in my for loop body, it's just gonna print it. So this is the conditional making in a for loop, and you're just gonna use a set of dots, and there's 4 spaces between the second code, I mean second line of code, and the next code is, as I'm just gonna press enter. Here you guys can see all of them, it has 4 spaces between them, and you cannot just go there and type anything. As you guys can see, as I'm just gonna run it, this it gives me that doesn't match any other outer identification level, so it has a leveling structure. And this is how a totally format of a for loop it works. So let's just execute the cell and to see the output. So here, as you guys can see, I've defined something called number in my print function. So as a default, it's just gonna show the number in all of my prints. So I've just defined a list, and here I have defined a for loop body, and here I get my output. And this is how a total structure of a for loop works. So for the better understanding of a for loop, let's give it another example. And here I'm just gonna change the stuff for it. I'm just gonna name it example 2 of a for loop. And here I'm just gonna extend my list to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I'm just gonna change the variable that I've just told you how we can just change it. It doesn't matter the name of it. For example, I'm just gonna say here for x in my numbers, and I'm just gonna delete this, and let me delete the comma. And here we mustn't use num anymore, because as I'm just gonna use it, it's just gonna use the last given stuff. So I'm just gonna clear the cell output, and here I'm just gonna use x, because in this for loop I should use x, because I have defined the x in the body of my for loop. I'm just gonna use modulo format for getting the odd or even numbers, and I'm just gonna use modulo operator. And if you don't know how to use operators, you can just check out my video. I taught you how to use operators. So I'm just gonna use equal to 0. So let's run it, and here you guys can see that how fast and easy we could define a for loop to iterate over the stuff. I mean, the division results of 1 to 2 is not equal to 0, so it gives us false output. And the division results of 2 by 2, it is equal to 0, so this is gonna be true. And by this structure, it's just gonna give me false, true, false, true, false, true until the end. And this is how a good example of a for loop it could be working for you.
Music licensing reimagined.